Thanks for joining us on a Friday. Today, Brett is our presenter, and he's going to share his presentation. Don't worry, be happy. Get more from your Lawson Experience. We'll be monitoring the chat throughout, so if you have questions, please feel free to drop your question in the chat, and I will turn it over to Brett.
Thank you so much, and thanks everybody for taking some time on your Friday to meet with us. I hope and expect that this is informative, no pun intended. What I thought I'd do is just start off with an analogy because I really believe it is going to set the tone for a lot of the content that we're going to discuss. And honestly, this just came to me as I was walking my dogs through my neighborhood about a week ago in anticipation of meeting with you all. And I got past my neighbor's house and he was out there. They had just listed their house for sale and he was cleaning and painting and fixing and sweating and running ragged and telling me how stressed he was because they're getting ready to move. And I'm sure that at least once in everybody's lives that are on this call right now, you've gone through a move, and it always fascinates me. I'm no exception. That we get the home that we've lived in to exactly the place we always wished it was or had been, only at the time that we're ready to sell it or move on. And so keep that analogy in mind and liken it to your current, if you're still running Lawson software, your current Lawson environment. A lot of organizations, as you all know, are considering their ERP future. Do I stay on Lawson? Do I move to Cloud Suite? And really the premise of this discussion is you don't have to wait to move to clean your house, optimize the use of the current home that you're in. And I wanted to share with you today a little bit about how we're going to suggest you go about that. We have a program to help clients get better optimization or utilization out of your current Lawson system. One last comment before I officially introduce myself. I think, and I hope this is not new news to anybody on the line, but you are probably well aware that a couple of months back, Infor announced the extension of Lawson V10 out to December of 2030. And when that announcement came out, that was really my light bulb moment or the impetus for really the discussion we're having today. Because I thought to myself, and I've spent a lot of time in this industry, as I'll share with you, that this is an opportunity for clients to utilize the Lawson that I grew up in, implemented, know, and honestly still really love, to just do more and better things with. And you can go out and Google any number of different statistics about the amount of feature functionality that a typical client might utilize within ERP. So whether it's this exact figure or some flavor of it, the point is that you'd be hard pressed to find any statistic that suggests an organization is using anything more than about 50% of their out of the box features and capabilities of the software. And that, at the end of the day, is what we hope to address. By way of introduction, my name is Brett Weiss. Like I mentioned, I've been in this Infor ecosystem for the last 24 years. I grew up in the Lawson world as an implementation consultant on the supply chain side, working at Lawson Software back in the late 90s. Did that for years, held a number of different roles and responsibilities during my time at then Infor, because I was there through the acquisition. And then I've been in the partner ecosystem ever since. I'm responsible for leading the Nordic ERP business unit here. In terms of just a little bit of my background, first of all, love doing sessions like this. Excuse me, I love talking Lawson software. I feel like I could still implement it to this day. But a little bit about me. Love being a girl dad. I have two other furry children, as you can see there. And if you didn't find me doing this, you would definitely find me taking in as much fresh air as I can get, whether that's sports, hiking, taking in a good sunset, you name it. So again, thank you for being here. Now, you did hear me mention Nordic and not Bales. And as a reminder for those that perhaps were not on the last Informative Friday where I mentioned this, I wanted to reiterate one or really two items. Bales, effectively 3 weeks ago, is now known in the marketplace as Nordic or Nordic ERP. We have the same great team, the same great people doing all the great work that we've always done, just with a different logo in mind. Nordic had purchased Bales well over 2 years ago, and candidly, it was time to merge those brands together and start to go to market with kind of a one Nordic mindset and model. The other news or update that I wanted to share, and I really encourage for those that are attending to come see me. Infor Connect is next week. If you haven't registered and can get a hall pass to still attend, I would highly recommend it. There are well over 150 sessions scheduled. I think everybody knows Inforum is not being conducted any longer, and this is sort of a satellite version of that out in St. Paul, Minnesota. If anybody's on the line that is attending, like I said, please do come and see me. In terms of, excuse me, what the broader Nordic can help organizations with beyond what Bales historically had done, and then we'll jump into the content at hand, is an expanded sort of portfolio of services that we offer, helping organizations with our performance improvement group on all things IT strategy. We have a digital transformation team that are deep technologists, not just on Infor, but you'd be hard pressed to find a technology that you may be utilizing or interested in that this group is not familiar with or can consult on. We have our team, which falls into the implementation and support staff doing Infor work. And then last but not least, for those that are using us for managed services already, you're aware of some of those capabilities, everything from phone a friend support all the way up to full IT departmental outsourcing. So enough about that. Let's get to the subject at hand. What I hope you leave today with is a better understanding of what is a business process assessment, how do we approach performing or delivering this business process assessment, and what you should as a client expect as a deliverable coming out of the assessment. It's this assessment that is ultimately the mechanism that's going to allow you to get greater utilization of your Lawson system. So let's first talk about what it is. And by the way, as I'm going through this, if you do have questions, like Molly said, you can use the chat. I will pause periodically, and if you're comfortable coming off of mute and want to ask your question out loud, that's cool too. Hopefully we can keep this pretty interactive. At the highest level, and then we'll start to peel this back as we dig deeper, the purpose of the assessment is really a few things. First of all, at the leadership level of your organization, we want to understand through a series of interviews and questions the strategy, goals, challenges from an executive perspective. Whether that, for example, means that there's cost-cutting initiatives, or maybe you're having challenges with staffing and recruiting. We'd like to hear from, ideally, the leadership of an organization to understand what are the big picture challenges, where are you trying to go, and how can we align the software, in this case Lawson, to help address or achieve some of those goals. We then will work with your business unit leadership or departmental heads to understand aspirationally, what are you trying to do within the department? Then we'll peel that back and get into the challenges that the Lawson user population may be experiencing. Perhaps, for example, we get our consultants engaged, we work with you, and it's determined that something you're doing today in a manual process could be automated using Infor process automation. Those are the types of things we want to extract from you and then ultimately give you a sense of what it would take to implement those unused features and functionality. The other thing that we want to make sure to do is streamline any business processes that we feel or may recognize that you could do perhaps a little bit more efficiently. Um, we all, unfortunately, since the time that you've probably implemented Lawson, had turnover. People have come and gone. And a lot of times when subject matters leave, there's not necessarily the amount of onboarding and training in those Lawson processes for that next person. So every time somebody leaves, we have a little bit of that knowledge erosion or attrition, and we want to make sure to shore that up and make sure that you know how to get the best out of the system that you're running. In terms of how long does it take? We have two versions of a business process assessment. We have roughly a 1 month version, an accelerated approach to a BPA, which I'll talk more about. That does not mean the actual engagement itself is 1 month in effort or duration. It's really because scheduling these sessions takes time, and we don't necessarily want to bombard you with all of our questions in one day. But really, it tends on average to span start to finish about 1 month, but the actual effort in terms of exchanging information is much faster than that. And then we have a far more in-depth analysis that we can do, and that tends to run, depending on what applications you're currently utilizing, somewhere between 2 and 3 months. So we'll talk more about what you get as part of those engagements in just a moment. In terms of who needs to be involved in these engagements, I can only say that the more the better. The more involvement, the greater the results. Because if we have access to leadership and we have access to your business unit leaders, obviously we can extract that much more information about your goals, your challenges, your strategy that would then make an appearance in the actual deliverable that we produce. So highly encourage you, get the right people to the table. We will help you with that, which I'll talk about in just a moment. Before I move on, Molly, any questions, or folks on the line, any questions that you'd like to come off of mute for?
Nothing in the chat, but again,
Okay.
feel free to come off mute.
Sure. Well, let's peel this back a layer deeper, and talk about the process. How do we actually uncover opportunities for you to improve the use of Lawson? It starts with an interview, a series of interviews. So if we drill down into the details of what those interviews look like, we will provide you with a very specific business process assessment agenda. It will be tailored to you based on the modules within Lawson, or can also be used for Cloud Suite, by the way. If there's any Cloud Suite customers out there on the line right now that just want to know opportunities on how to utilize that platform better, this is every bit as applicable for you. But it will be tailored to the specific modules you're utilizing. We will let you know the recommended attendees to join each of those sessions. Don't be too focused on the hours that are identified here, because again, that's determined based on the modules within each of those work streams. But all told, we can typically get the information that we need within about a total of 8 hours per work stream. So finance, supply chain, HR, payroll. within about 8 hours of Q&A, and that can span over a length of time based on your availability. We know everybody has your day jobs, and again, we're not trying to just bombard you and overwhelm you. Most important is that we get the information that we need. And again, that happens via this agenda that we'll provide, and then a very targeted business process questionnaire. The questionnaire is not meant to be completely literal. It's meant to keep these interviews very focused, very targeted on the areas of Lawson that we frequently see as optimization opportunities. So we will ask these questions, we will record the results based on your feedback so that we then in turn can come back and document the deliverable. So let's look at that. The deliverable will include what did we hear? So we basically uncover your current state processes. What recommendations do we have? How much effort would it take to implement those recommendations or make those configuration changes? Which, by the way, none of this suggests that you would need a consulting firm like Nordic or anybody else to do some of what we're going to talk about. We want to uncover opportunities that perhaps you can do yourself, whether it's writing a new IPA or changing a flag in a configuration that allows the software to behave differently. We want you to just know what the low-hanging fruit versus the larger items to optimize are. And then last but not least, what the priority of those optimizations are. That's for you as the client to decide. We'll give you the information. We'll collaborate with you on what does that priority look like. But at the end of the day, it's very simple. In the accelerated approach, you're going to get kind of a spreadsheet type view that, as you can see by the column headings, talks about our observations, the impact of that current state, what our recommendation is. In this particular example, it's talking about cash book. What are the benefits of implementing, in this case, cash ledger on a more comprehensive basis? What is the priority and what is the level of effort? Like I mentioned before, there is a long form version of this that we can provide as part of the broader assessment that will explain each and every one of these observations in far greater detail, depending upon what the need of your organization is. What we are finding, and we're doing a lot of these right now, or being asked to do a lot of these, the accelerated version is very effective. It doesn't necessarily get into the depth of the longer engagement where we would oftentimes jump on your system, analyze your setup and configuration. But we are finding really good results, and clients are improving their use of the software through the accelerated approach. Once we've documented, we then assemble the presentation that goes back to your leadership, key stakeholders, and anybody that was involved in the process at that point. At the highest level, you'll get kind of a dashboard type view that can then be drilled down on. So in the top left-hand corner, we have the findings for this particular engagement broken down by work stream. So financials, human capital management, supply chain management. And of those categories or work streams, what did we observe as low, medium, high priority? I highlighted the high priority items in green. And now if we look in the lower left-hand corner and we align the high priority green items with the low level of effort items in the lower left, now you can start to formulate a strategy. Because clearly, if it's low level of effort, likely meaning you can do this work yourself, and high priority, meaning it's important for the organization, you should probably do it. Versus the opposite, which is it's really low priority, it's not that important, and it takes a lot of work to implement it. That's but might be something, especially if you are considering a move to the cloud in the future, that you just hold off on and uh, wait until you make that move. So I'm hoping that this makes sense. It's very logical so far. Are there any questions or comments?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay. Um, when we want to drill down into the details to start to understand at a more granular level, this happens to be an extract from a supply chain deliverable we did. This now you can see starts to get into the details. So if I highlight just one quick example, the one arm, muscly arm indicating effort, the 3 alarm fire indicating high priority. And for this particular client that I pulled this from, they didn't have any integration between their point of use system for those healthcare clients that might be on the line. So you had these point of use systems out on the nursing floors, and they didn't have it integrated into Lawson using the delivered. I think it's the IC. It's dusting off my Lawson supply chain cap. IC 200, maybe somebody can correct me on that. They're not utilizing the delivered interface that comes with Lawson to make sure that the point of use system, in this case it was Pyxis, was connected for helping with automated replenishment. So nurse goes over to the Pyxis station, they pull inventory out of it. Lawson needs to know that that happened to send or to generate a pick ticket and then ultimately replenish that cabinet. For this particular client, that process I just described was completely manual and paper-based. Those are the types of examples that we want to uncover and we want to solve for. You can kind of see some other examples that this client was experiencing. They didn't have automated rec approvals. And I still come across countless clients in my travels that this is still applicable to today, even though I was implementing some of these things 20 years ago. So after we present the findings and we collaborate with you on making sure that the prioritization of those findings has been categorized properly, we then want to turn that into a roadmap. So how much time will it take to implement those findings? What's the level of effort? Meaning, from a staffing standpoint, what do we need to do? What do you need to do? Maybe we don't need to do anything. What does it cost? So, as part of this, what you'll get is, and this is again applicable to the same example I was just showing, in that client's case, they had never deployed a lot of the inventory control purchase order. They were not utilizing mobile supply chain. They had very limited contract management. In fact, I think they were still using PO25 and no contract management. We'll map that out and lay out logical timelines as to how long it might take. Again, some of these items might just be a day. It's just a change of a flag that you can do yourself. Other things like implementing a brand new module might be a little bit bigger. The other thing that we will give you, and this may not be the greatest or most intuitive illustration as I look at it, but basically what this is illustrating is a detailed staffing model by role. So depending on what you would like to deploy, we've identified for you by role, month over month for the duration of that implementation, who might be needed, how long they might be needed, when they might be needed, so that you guys can make a decision on whether you have the resources to do the work or whether you need any help. That's really the purpose of that. Any questions?
Nothing in the chat.
Last but not least, it's time to implement. So we've interviewed you, we've gathered information, we've documented our observations and recommendations based on our team's expertise. We've presented that back to your leadership and all of the key Lawson user community that has been involved. We then, per your guidance, build out a roadmap to deploy any of the recommendations that we've made. And then it moves into implementation, whether or not, again, it's something that you do, or we do together. We're not going to need, I don't believe, the full hour today. So I'm happy on a Friday to be able to give you some time back in just a few minutes. I'll leave you with a couple of comments and direct you to a few things. Begin with the end in mind. You've probably heard that expression. What do I mean by that? I go back to the analogy that I started this discussion out with, or presentation out with, about not waiting to make that cloud move to fix everything within your current house that you wished you had done before. You make some of these changes, excuse me, within your Lawson platform, and it is going to better prepare you for the move when you are ready to go to the cloud. Maybe one of the initiatives is a master data file management cleanup. So over the last 20 years, your item master file perhaps has gotten a lot of duplicates in it. Your vendor master file has gotten out of whack. These are great opportunities to go through data cleansing exercises, streamline business processes, roll out workflows, all of which will be meaningful and helpful as you move into a cloud journey in the future. We will make this slide deck available to you. It's interactive. There's a hyperlink at the bottom of this screen that you can click on. It will take you to a pretty decent data sheet that Infor assembled that I've highlighted here on the right-hand side. And it basically says why upgrade from Lawson S3 to a multi-tenant Infor cloud suite. Gives you some of the features and benefits of that that may be helpful for you. But certainly if you have any questions, you'd like to do some more in-depth understanding of the business process assessment and how it can help you guys optimize your use of Lawson, we always have our coffee with consultants. I highly encourage you to take advantage of this. All you need to do is reach out to nordicglobal.com/contact, ask for support on a given topic, and we will jump on the line with you and answer any questions that you might have. Before we bring this session to a close, let's once again ask if there are any questions or comments, and if not, we will wrap up in just a moment. Molly?
Nothing in the chat right now. But
Okay.
feel free to come off mute if you have questions.
Okay. As a reminder, the next Informative Friday that we're leading is on May 26th. For those FSM clients out there that want to learn more about dimensional security, that will be covered in detail. I believe incorporating the system as part of that as well. If you have any questions regarding this or any future Informative Fridays, along, by the way, with any recommendations that you might like to see in a future session, please do email Molly and let her know, hey, it'd be really good if we had a session on fill in the blank. And we will be happy to present on the topics that are of most interest for you. With that, again, I thank everybody. Molly, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the schedule for the August Informative Fridays is out, or have we not published that yet?
Not yet for August. And while I have you up, we do have a question in the chat, which we might have to pull in one of our supply chain people on the line. How does one know if Pixaset, is that how you say it, is interfaced to Infor V11?
You're talking V11, or are we talking Lawson? So are you a Cloud Suite customer, or are you a Lawson customer?
Yes, this is a Cloud Suite customer.
Cloud Suite customer. So, and you're right, we may need a Cloud Suite. My Lawson days are where I stopped being a consultant, and I could tell you the answer very definitively on the Lawson side. On the Cloud Suite side, I'm going to make the assumption that by and large the capabilities are similar. And the way that you would know whether that integration exists is, first of all, programmatically, it would have to be in place. But I would ask you the question of whether you're getting automated pick tickets generated um, automatically when inventory is decremented at your point of view system. So item comes out of the cabinet. Are you guys getting an automated pick ticket generated that in turn is your notification to go fill the or replenish the supplies on a given floor? So I hope that answers your question. I get the impression that if you're asking how do we know if it's automated, it may not be. But we can follow up with one of our Cloud Suite supply chain architects and just get confirmation on that. Or if there's any clients on the line right now that know the definitive answer to that, I welcome that as well. Other questions?
Nope, that's the only one so far.
Okay. Again, I hope some of you, if not all of you, are planning to attend next week. Come see us. We'll have a team out there. There's some really good sessions. If not, I do hope Infor is recording it all so that you can benefit from some of the sessions that might be of most interest. Other than that, I wanted to provide you that high-level overview of how we can engage and help you optimize your use of Lawson, or in this case, Cloud Suite as well. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me or any of the team members, and we'll be happy to discuss it further. I thank you all, and I hope everybody has a happy and safe weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.